From here, 16th century, we move into the other events, major events that took place in the 17th century. Next painting here is called Covenant, depicting a scene dealing with the arrival of the early settlers, the pilgrims whose story is a central theme of the history and culture of the United States. The settlement at Plymouth came some 14 or 15 years after the unsuccessful settlement and devastation at Jamestown. So the work title, Covenant, relates to the Mayflower Compact, which was the first governing document of the Plymouth colony, written by the pilgrims aboard the Mayflower ship that landed at Plymouth, which is so named by Captain Smith after the Plymouth port in England. The scene depicted in Covenant contains figures, objects, elements, symbols making reference to the Mayflower ship, the signers of the compact, the Indians who helped the pilgrims survive. Basing its subject on the early settlers in America, the painting Covenant depicts a scene in two sections. One on the pilgrims who came on the Mayflower ship and landed at Plymouth, and the other section on misfortunate events and circumstances surrounding earlier settlers. Earlier settlers, those who perished either at Jamestown or even much earlier, several years earlier, when French settlers landed in St. Augustine in Florida. So the painting's two sections are parted here in the center by a rather red-yellow sun sphere, which is surrounded by pendulous forms that extend themselves over the entire picture surface. At the top right side, you see dripping lines around the sun. They orient the shape of the sail of the Mayflower ship, and then navigate toward the three joint figures that possibly represent the signatories of the Covenant. Immediately below them are thrusting figures suggesting natives carrying objects and elements associated with agricultural staples, such as corn stalks, bean vines, squash, etc. The lower forefront shows a clergyman above a fallen female figure, holding a torch broom in flame, making reference to the burning of witches, the famous witches' trial. The left section deploys a grouping of dark blue figures against a somber, deep red ground, blending various levels and echoes with their surroundings. And then from this event, the next 3 or 4 works deal with a set of 18th century events, beginning with birth 1776, when the 13 colonies of North America overthrew the government of the British Empire in the Revolutionary War, the American War of Independence, that resulted in the Declaration of Independence of 1776 and becoming the nation of the United States. So birth 1776 bases its subject on the American Revolution and independence. It has the scene 3-part composition in which the left and right section are linked by a massive tree, trunk of a tree, emerging and running upward, with branches extending in all directions and penetrating the adjoining sections with textures and forms, suggesting organic associations in this case they look like rounded, like cell forms that seem to subdivide and float around the figures. A fearless eagle sits at the top against the ground, shaped by red and white stripes of the American flag in a space dotted with stars and symbolic forms. The area along the side of the tree trunk has an open space that reveal on one side the face of Commander, First President George Washington. And on the left side of the tree trunk there's a face of Thomas Jefferson, the author of the Declaration of Independence. The left and right rather triangular sections are joined by the tree trunk in establishing a unified baseline reflecting muskets, rifles that symbolize the armed struggle and the fight that won America's freedom and independence. And the influence of the American Revolution and independence spread south to the other side of America, Latin America. The painting, the next painting here we are branching, depict a scene dealing with the fight and struggle for liberation and independence in South America. So the branches of the tree in the painting birth germinates in the painting branching, which bases its subject on the War of Liberation in Latin America. The composition here depicts, again has a three-part scene in which the presence of a ponderous tree trunk builds a kind of a pathway through the left and right sections. In the center it forms a horseshoe around the figures. This tree encircles and penetrates the plains and allow the layers underneath to give full weight to the nature and relationship of the figures in conveying the sense of resistance and struggle for liberation. A sense of inner tension and restlessness seem to be echoed by forms and pattern that crystallize around some apparition here of faces, which on the left side, as you see in the center, the rearing horse is turning and jerking, and then we have the face of various revolutionary figures. Simon Bolivar, who is looking on this side, and then further, a little bit down next to him is Antonio Sucre, and then further Jose de San Martin. Those are just delineated figures, they're not actually tall portraits. And then you see likeness of Francisco de Miranda. On the other side, you have the faces of Miguel Hidalgo, along with Jose Maria Morelos. The next, we move into a very important subject of slavery